12 Republican senators joined with Chuck Schumer and the Democrats to support a procedural vote to rush through the so-called Respect for Marriage Act. Now, the harmful impact this bill will have on religious freedom and our country, on parental rights, cannot be overstated. The fight's not over. Senator Lee has offered an amendment that would protect the religious freedom rights of Americans. Now, so far, the Democrats are refusing to take up his amendment, but this would protect religious freedom, which includes the rights of parents to protect their children from indoctrination. Joining me now to discuss this is Congressman Scott Perry. He serves on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, the House Transportation Committee, and Infrastructure Committee, and is a member and actually the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. He represents Pennsylvania's 4th Congressional District. Congressman Perry, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony. And you couldn't be more correct. Look, they're doing the same thing in the Senate that they did in the House. This bill did not come through committee in the House. It came directly to the floor. We didn't have a lot of information on it. Tony, when they were calling for the vote, I was on the phone with my pastor, with a local Catholic priest, with other pastors in my local church. And we were given a choice, as we understood it in this bill, to either vote against traditional marriage or vote against interracial marriage. And of course, I'm against either one of them, but you had to make a choice. And so when I walked onto the floor, of course, the vote was on. I had to vote almost immediately. And I calculated incorrectly, and maybe that's the best way to put it, that my longstanding support of traditional marriage would be understood, and I didn't want to vote against interracial marriage. That's the same trick they're playing now. Now they're going to offer some kind of amendment, but this actually literally destroys religious freedom and the ability to enforce religious freedom, which is really important, and that's why they're doing this. So I want to encourage my friends on the Senate side of the building to not be fooled. That's exactly what this is all about. And anything less than the Mike Lee amendment is going to be unacceptable. So if the Democrats don't allow that amendment to be in order and for that amendment to pass, you absolutely must vote no.
It's interesting how they put this in the context of interracial marriage, and so that you were going to be a racist if you voted against this bill. I mean, that's the way they have put it. But again, there's a reason that we have rules that these things are supposed to go through committee. They're supposed to be debated, but that's not been happening. That actually brings up another issue with the new Congress being in the hands of Republicans, the 118th Congress. Is that something that will change so this type of stuff won't happen? People will actually be able to know what they're voting on?
Well, it darn sure better. As you know, Tony, that's exactly what I and other members of the Freedom Caucus, and quite honestly, other members, even members elect that just came to Congress, are fighting for right now, is to make sure that we, among other things, have time to read the bills. You know, Tony, there hasn't been an amendment on the floor in 6 years. You can't even represent your district. All of that stuff has to end, and we are fighting for that. We shouldn't have to fight for it, quite honestly, but we are right now. So, yeah, you need time to review bills to make sure that these kind of things aren't hidden in them. It's exactly why the left and the Democrats ran it this way. And, it tricks people. You don't want to be a racist, but you're not against traditional marriage. You shouldn't have to make that choice, yet that was the choice in the bill. And that's what's facing senators. And they probably, if they have not gone through it, the subtleties of it, they don't realize that this is an absolute assault on religious liberty and the ability to enforce the freedom of religion. That's what's really important here. It's one thing to say it, Tony, but it's another thing to enforce it. Countries around the world say it, but there's only one that enforces it, and the Democrats are trying to destroy that right now.
Now, I do hope the senators will, these 12 will come to their senses, at least these 12 on the Republican side. Although I will say, Congressman Perry, they had a little more time to look at. They saw the fallout in the House after it was rushed through, and they had the month of August to look at this and September, and now this was rushed through after in this lame duck session of Congress where there's about a half dozen of these senators who will not be, they're retiring, so they won't be standing before voters again, so there's no accountability. But this is, and you've looked at this, you've had multiple discussions with this, and I think people need to realize this is probably one of the most egregious assaults on religious freedom and the rights of parents. Because when you talk about what's happening in classrooms across America, the indoctrination, This is linked to it.
You're absolutely right. And this is by design. And I would encourage any of those senators, if they have any reservation at all, they should contact me. I'm happy to talk to them about the thought process through this. But I guarantee them, if they're voting on this bill as a standalone, or there's something less than the Mike Lee amendment, that it will be a mistake. This will be a mistake for them if they vote for this. And I would encourage them absolutely to not do it.
All right. Congressman Perry, before I let you go, one final question. Going back to the 118th Congress, Freedom Caucus, what are the objectives of the Freedom Caucus going into this new Congress?
Well, the objectives generally are that we want all members of Congress, not just Freedom Caucus and not just Republicans, all members to be empowered. We don't like this centralization of power at the top, so that, for instance, you can't make amendments and you have to go through some leadership to represent your district. All of us have the same election certificate, all 435 of us. So one of us shouldn't be more important than the other. We know that we have to have leadership to administer the operation in the House of Representatives, but it shouldn't be used to silence the voices of members of Congress. And so we are asking, and at some point requesting from our leadership to either open up the process, or there's going to have to be changes, Tony. You know, you can't keep doing the same things under the same conditions with the same people and think there's going to be a different outcome. Yet in the Senate, they just reelected Mitch McConnell. In the House, we look like we're headed for the same circumstance, the same set of rules. How do we think things are going to be different? The country is in trouble right now. We have to make a course correction.
Yeah, I think you're right. You can't keep doing the same thing, expect different results. Congressman Scott Perry, good to see you. Welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.